This was a very thought-provoking and touching chapter, at least for me anyway, and I really liked the interaction between Komatsu and Toriko. Very good.
Toriko, gourmet number 91. The last drop leads the way.
The last drop lead the way. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and gourmet hunters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and marvelous centuries super-ridden tale of Toriko. Now, the last chapter, of course, saw us with really Teppei kind of going around and wrapping everybody up and getting everybody going again, and keeping really Takamaru, the three Mafia guys, Match, and Toriko all from pretty much dying out. Now, somewhere in there, at some point, and I apologize for this, it was either the last chapter or the one before, when Bogey and Barry got the call from you to pull out. I vaguely remember them flashing a panel and showing that tiny little GT robot with like a bag, and we're assuming the Century Soup. They had gotten it, that's why they got called out. So, and somehow or another I missed it, apologize for it, but ultimately it is what it is. I make mistakes, but I did pick up on it, I did get it. There was something in this chapter that made me remind me of it, and I was like, oh yeah. So anyway, the chapter ended though with everybody coming upon and getting back to Komatsu, who had obviously been bloodied and not looking very good in his quest for the Century Soup. So that's where things left off, and that's where things pick up over here. And we find out that Komatsu he breaks down and just goes down to his knees and starts sobbing and crying and just kind of yelling out. And really, for him, it's his lack of being able to accomplish something. It's his lack of being able to have the necessary strength to do something that he was tasked with, and he feels like a failure because of that. And I'm sure that at some point in all of our lives, we can admit that we felt like that, or maybe feel like that right now. Or if it hasn't happened to you yet, it may in the future at some point, where you just feel like you've let somebody down, a friend, a family member, a teacher, a loved one, whatever it may be, because you were tasked with something and you just weren't up to the task, physically, mentally, whatever. Just the odds were against you. Things like that do happen. And you really do. I feel for Komatsu anyway. I really truly do, because he's someone who goes and, despite having this lack of power and this lack of the strength of everyone around him, physical prowess, he's very smart, he's very talented, and he has many other things to contribute. But I understand his self-doubt, because he's going on these crazy journeys with Toriko, and certainly you feel like you'd have to have some more strength or some kind of move set to be able to kind of match with that sort of physical prowess, But what I like about it, after he goes and then this is how it ties into the GT Raw. He says, this tiny robot riding on a fly, attacked me and stole it from me, right? And then Teppei's like, a GT robot. And then Teppei goes into a thing and we see, and that's where that whole lead it to the last drop and everything like that. That's where that comes from. But prior to that, what I really liked is that Toriko went, and as he sees Komatsu sobbing and everything, he says, "Listen, dude," he goes, "the important thing is that you're okay, that you're all right, and that you're gonna live to fight another day." Many times, gourmet hunters, pro gourmet hunters like myself, go out and go to obtain something, and we fail. It's okay. And what I really liked about that is he was reinforcing to Komatsu what we should all know, is that it's okay. We build success upon our failures. That's what it is. Many people think, well, I failed at this and I failed. You don't really fail at anything unless you stop trying. And I know that it sounds like a cliche saying and everything, and in some ways it is. But when you give up on something that you've tried over and over again because you failed, that's when you really fail. Many of the great inventors and the brightest minds in our history, in human history, have failed hundreds or thousands of times before they came upon that one thing that wound up changing the world or changing the face of this or that. So it really truly is, I thought, very poetic and very justified for Toriko to say, hey, listen, it's okay to go ahead and fail. The important thing is that you're alive to go and to be able to go and fight another day, to be able to go on another quest, So I really like that. And Komatsu goes and he kind of is hugging Toriko, and he's just like, and Toriko's like, ow, ow. And he's like, are you okay? You're missing an arm. And he's like, I'm a little shaky on my legs, but I'm all right. I did this awesome move. And he's explaining, Komatsu's like, awesome move? Yeah, but you're missing an arm. Anyway, Teppei then goes into this little kind of flashback and from his master, whoever it is, and we don't see who it is. It's just this, he's chomping on like 3 cigars, it looks like, and we kind of see a shadow of him, and he's sort of got like a bandana on. It really reminds me of like a Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, if anybody's ever played those games, and certainly if you have, great, and if you haven't, you should check them out. You should also go, and in the meantime, a shameless plug over here, go and check out, if you haven't done so already, my other channel that I started with my son, Nerd Nation Gaming. Links are always in the description down below, but feel free to go over there and check out some of the stuff we have going on. But at any rate, for some reason, it made me think of the Gears of War Marcus Phoenix when I saw this character. So I don't know who Teppei's boss is. We know, obviously, that he is related to, in some way, Knocking Master Jiro, but that's obviously not his boss. It's not the be-all, end-all. It's not who he's working with or for or what have you. So, but anyway, what he winds up remembering is that his boss told him that, you know, if the showcase is dead and it can't be brought back, you know what I mean? If it's that far gone, you know, to let the last drop lead the way, right? And so what he winds up doing is he goes and Teppei goes and actually the plant, the tree, that tree of protection that he had go around the gourmet showcase, he winds up going and hitting it with this dormancy extract thing that basically makes it shrink back down. The gourmet showcase is going to wind up collapsing, and he basically goes and he says, you know, a moment of silence for this, you know, because this wonderful product of the hundreds and thousands of different creatures and ingredients and things like that have gotten trapped in it has created one of the tastiest, you know, most sought after ingredients in the world, right? You know, and it only comes around once a century and everything else. So, you know, it's definitely something that's worth kind of hats off, moment of silence type deal for. Anyway, what I really liked about it is that as he's going and he's doing it, and then they go and they can also hear the damn Hellboros, you know, fighting up the Parasite Emperor still up there. He's knocking around, you know, and Match is like, you know, even we may not leave here with Century Soup, but we still may wind up dying, you know. Also in the last chapter, when I saw that page at the end of it, all I did was I saw 3 guys wrapped in bandages, and I assumed those were the 3 Mafia guys. For some reason or other, they only showed 2 Mafia guys, and then Toriko was actually holding Takamaru. And they're all wrapped up like mummies, so it was hard to tell, unless you looked at it closer, which I did. And upon closer inspection, I could see Takamaru's hair kind of hanging out, you know, the hair that hangs over his one eye, that just sort of gives him that signature look. Anyway, Takamaru also winds up kind of coming to and at least becoming conscious during the course of this, and that's why I figured I would mention it, because I did ask in the last one. I was like, what the hell's going on with Takamaru? Where is he? Is he just dead? But no, he is. It looks like everybody's going to start to hopefully slowly but surely recover thanks to Teppei. But Takamaru is, of course, there. And then really, as the pages unfold and everything like that, and you just kind of see, everything is depicted beautifully. It's drawn wonderfully. You know, the art is it's really something to behold in this particular series. The attention to detail is really beautiful and second to none. And again, I've said this before, but you know, this is coming from an artist or an aspiring artist, I guess you would say. I appreciate things like that, and as I see just the page after page of the gourmet showcase as it starts to kind of break down and shatter and everything like that, just drawn wonderfully and depicted in such a nice way. But Teppei goes and says, you know, there may be one last drop that'll we're going to wring whatever we can out of the showcase here. This whole mountain's going to come down pretty soon, but you know, let's see if it rings out another drop. And then I like it because as it goes and it progresses, and you see. And as you see the showcase too, I thought this was nicely drawn here. As you see the showcase starting to break down and shatter over there, and then as it goes into over here, you know, they're all kind of standing around and then you go and you see, looks like there's a drop just starting to come out over there, you know, and then you get to the next page and it's kind of this nice double page spread, and they can kind of still see the aurora signifying the soup and everything else, you know, and you just kind of see the look on everybody's faces like, and it's just sort of that like, actually, you know what? I think it's probably the Halo music, but you get the idea, you know. And that's still the Halo music, but anyways. And then as it gets into the last page, you know, they're just like, there's one more drop, and it's kind of cool because everybody's like, just kind of like hold your hands out and see if it comes to you. And the neat thing about this whole thing is that it winds up going and as if like poetic justice for Komatsu and the struggle that he's been through and the heart that this kid has. You know, I mean, the heart and the balls that this kid has are twice the size of anybody else in this series, only because he is so much more physically weak and such a detriment to the actual the crew. He doesn't contribute the things that other people do, like Toriko or Coco or Takamaru or Match or any of that, you know. But man, he is a guy that just has so much heart, such a big heart. Absolutely love it. So the soup chose him, and I thought that was kind of cool. You know, it winds up ending with that. You know, just with Komatsu kind of holding it. And again, for me, it was a very cool thing, very poetic. I've been the underdog. I've always kind of rooted for the underdog. Maybe that's why I like a guy like Komatsu, a character like Komatsu. Maybe I see some of my previous self, or even myself some days in him. I don't know, but still very, very cool, and a great chapter, and a wonderful ending, at least to this portion of it. So some of the soup will carry on, obviously, and Komatsu has got himself a drop in his hands, which basically looks like a big ass bowl's worth, you know. But I don't know how much this stuff is. I know this stuff is totally concentrated, so who knows what that'll get for everybody out of it. But again, very, very cool stuff, and I'm certainly excited to see who Teppei's actual, you know, boss is or whatever. Hopefully we're going to introduce to him this character pretty soon. So the chapter ends off over there. And my chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is what were your thoughts on Komatsu and Toriko? Obviously, Komatsu breaking down, which he's kind of done before, but really just totally feeling defeated in this one because he was finally tasked with something so important, and he took it so seriously, you know. And then obviously, you know, he was overcome and beaten up, and it was almost like a slap in the face to him because he's so weak that he couldn't even take out this tiny little GT robot on a tiny little fly. And yes, we know the GT robots are strong and everything else, but it's because of the size differential. Finally, he's bigger than something and someone, and he still wound up getting knocked around and beaten up and got the soup taken from. But really, what are your thoughts on not that what would happen, but him breaking down and then Toriko going and saying, "Hey, listen, dude, it's cool, man. Live to fight another day." That's the idea. It's okay. We grow from our failures, and our failures are really what winds up defining us because they really wind up helping us to build upon and create our successes. And that's what I want to know what you think about, brothers and sisters. Leave your answer to that convoluted, long-ass, frickin' roundabout question in the comments down below, would you? Don't you, please? Well, don't you know? Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We look forward to catching all of you in the next one, nation.
Speaking of Marcus Phoenix and Gears of War, here's the sexy Anya Stroud. Remember to follow me on my other channels as well as Facebook and Twitter and Instagram too.